This is the Build Your Path podcast, where we explore how people get into their careers in the built environment. Today's guest is Stacey Holsinger, an over 10-year industry veteran focusing on marketing in the construction industry. Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Shapiro Duncan. Build the lifestyle you deserve. Welcome on into another edition of the Build Your Path podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Pine, and my guest today,
Stacey Holsinger from Shapiro Duncan, marketing manager. One of the coolest things that I've ever done was visited two awesome commercial buildings, the Holocaust Memorial Museum Collections and Conservation Center and the Mount Vernon Study of George Washington Library. Both buildings will never be open to the public, and they're just for the top researchers that store historical documents and artifacts. So it was really cool to visit those two commercial projects.
So welcome, Stacey. We're happy to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So if you could just tell our listeners, how you got here in this marketing role, maybe just go into your start, in school and your early life.
Yeah, sure. So it's been kind of a tougher trying to figure out what I wanted to do for a career, but I grew up in Philadelphia, and there was no real focus in self-discovery when it came to careers. So there was no discussion of STEM or career days or talk of technical education. So all I really had was art class and computer class for electives. So I played Oregon Trail and Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. So nothing naturally upon high school graduation. I was completely lost as to what I wanted to do for a career. There was no real guidance. So the only careers I was actually exposed to outside of high school were retail jobs. And it wasn't until college where I had a career counselor and took this elaborate career test. And that really helped me narrow down my skills, my interests, and my talents. As far as the construction industry, I kind of fell into it. It definitely was not my first choice at the time. I wanted to work for a big advertising agency. But I needed a job to help support me while I attended night courses at Temple University. So the more I learned about the industry, the more I liked. And I started applying all my marketing coursework to the civil contractor I was working for at the time in Philly. And I helped them develop their internal newsletter and website, and just really developed kind of, their marketing program and how they just kind of market it, for their company. And the more I learned about construction, I just really enjoyed it, and it became interesting, and I just never left the industry. And now that we're in this kind of crisis situation, it really speaks volumes of how important construction really is.
Yeah, I think you made a good point there. When people think of construction industry jobs or built environment jobs, they don't necessarily think of, the marketer. That falls under the category of a professional. You can be in legal or in marketing or in IT. It's a pretty broad scope, but yeah, it's the position that we both find ourselves in.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you're in the construction industry, what would you say, maybe a person or something, just in general, that inspires you to do your job every day?
Yeah, so one of my peers, Megan Valek, she inspires me probably the most. I've known Megan now for about 8-9 years, and she's now the director of business development at Donahoe Construction. And I met her when she was a marketing coordinator. She used to work for Tanks Direct, and we kind of worked together through ABC Metro Washington. But I don't think she gets enough credit for how much she has accomplished in the industry. She started our XYZ group at ABC Metro Washington and the Women Building Washington group. And both groups are thriving. They're so well attended, and members are super highly engaged. So just her leadership, guidance, I can talk to her about anything. She has great values and unbelievable work ethic. She, is a great person, and I really look up to her. And then the other person that I think is awesome is Melissa Kaler, and she's the president and CEO of BFJoy, and they specialize in underground infrastructure, and she just has the great traits of a great leader. So, like, she's empathetic, honest, approachable, great listener. So that's someone I definitely look up to as well.
What are some of the most pressing issues that you see the industry facing?
So right now we're dealing with COVID, which is super unique and crazy. And in marketing communications, we're trying to find the healthy balance to communicate to employees, our clients, and our vendors, on a weekly basis, sometimes daily, just the right way to communicate changes that are happening with this crisis that we're in, whether it's, on the job site or communications that we're doing. We're all working from home for the most part now, except for essential workers that are working on the front line, and just being able to come up with, effective communications where you do show empathy and you are showing support, and you're following all the guidelines. And now more than ever, I think for a marketing team, for a construction company, you should realize that you should have a crisis communication plan in place. I know a lot of small businesses, probably weren't thinking about this before this type of situation, but this, there can be any type of crisis on any type of construction sites. There could be injuries, accidents, illness, death. You always have to have a plan in place for your communications team, and, one point of contact that everyone can, get your questions answered. So people aren't, in a panic or whatever. And that's why having a crisis communication plan is super important, and having a marketing team that's meeting so often to answer these questions for people that are working on the front lines, and making sure that, they feel safe and secure, so we can, all work together as a team.
Here's a little segment we like to call You Can't Make This Stuff Up.
The coolest thing I've ever done is, for marketing, we work on proposals. And for proposal development, you have to show past history of projects that you worked on. And one of the coolest things I get to do is go out to construction job sites that have been completed, commercials, so that could be museums, hospitals, schools, data centers. But I think the coolest thing is being in buildings that you don't have the opportunity to be in. There was two museums, Holocaust Memorial Museum and Mount Vernon, George Washington Mount Vernon Museum, that those will never be open to the public. Those are just for researchers that go in there and, do what they have to do, and they go through all the artifacts and everything and determine which they want to kind of like showcase to the museum to the public. And I'm sure that they do a lot of other ton of cool stuff with that. But those are buildings that normally I would never be able to be in, and some of them are in undisclosed locations as well. And then like government buildings, normal people can't be in, and you need a high security clearance for. That's pretty cool too.
What would you say brings you joy in the work that you do? What makes you get up every morning?
I really like helping students discover their skills before they consider a professional career. My road to self-discovery personally has been so painful and long, and I wish I figured it out a lot sooner than I had. I know now that if I had the right tools, resources, and guidance, it would have saved me a ton of time and money. So the way I give back is, I go to local elementary, middle schools, high schools, and even college level, and I spend, an hour or two talking to these kids about what I do in construction or construction opportunities in general, just so they know, what is outside of high school, and I try to simplify it in a way and not use construction lingo, so we can have a decent conversation about it. And, hopefully, their minds will change a little bit. Well, they have sometimes when I have those discussions with them. And I really love talking to the teachers and parents about the opportunities in construction, and then seeing the wheels turn.
So, Stacey, who is the smartest person you know in the industry and why?
So the smartest person I most admire would be Ann Hanley, and that's for anyone that's in construction marketing. She is one of the most innovative marketing experts in the country, and she's been cited in Forbes as the most influential woman in social media and one of the top 20 bloggers. She also wrote 2 bestsellers, Content Rules and Everybody Writes. She just does killer keynote presentations, and I can't say enough about her. She has a newsletter called Total Anarchy, which is hysterical, but it's also really informative. So if you're, a marketing coordinator or proposal coordinator, anything like that, do email communications, video. I mean, she has tips on everything marketing. So if you want to be on the forefront, with marketing and construction, I would definitely, she's one to follow.
Yeah, for sure. And this next question seems pretty timely for the current state of affairs. But, in marketing and other professional roles in the industry and the built environment, what other roles offer telecommuting in construction?
Yeah. So I can only speak for Shapiro and Duncan, but we offer telecommuting for human resources, accounting, purchasing, and our CAD teams. And that's only 1, maybe 2 days tops working from home per week. And that's because, if you partner with a construction company that's forward-thinking and equipped with the necessary tools to allow you to telecommute, you'll have more luck to get those opportunities. Now, with everything going on with COVID, I'm thinking that more construction firms, we were forced into this situation where we have to telecommute full-time. So I'm thinking that they're going to start seeing these opportunities now. So, for example, our company, we're trying to reach out to people that do virtual reality right now and virtual reality type of training for HVAC technicians, just to see, because that's the way things are moving now. So online training, that kind of thing. So there probably will be more roles that allow people to telecommute, but I think it's going to start more with the office first because obviously the field, you have to have your field workers on site. But I think there's going to be more opportunity for sure.
Yeah, and absolutely. That's a great point. And just to wrap up here, since you do work for Shapiro and Duncan, we did want to give you a little plug here and ask what are some of your upcoming marketing initiatives that you have in the pipeline?
Much of our concentration now is just focusing on our people, making sure they're safe and following proper procedures and communication and making sure their morale stays strong. But we hope that, once this passes, that maybe we'll rebuild our website.
Well, Stacey, we certainly appreciate you coming on the show. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
If you want to learn more about Build Your Path podcasts or the built environment overall, go ahead and visit buildyourpath.org. Another big thank you to our guest Stacey from Shapiro and Duncan. And once again, this episode was brought to you by Shapiro and Duncan. Build the lifestyle you deserve. Build Your Path podcasts are produced by the Maryland Center for Construction, Education, and Innovation. I'm Matt Pine. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.